Don't let religious scholars pressure you into making yourself sick to please God. I've just had a horrible week for so many reasons, and some of the reasons were health related, and I was so weak and exhausted. But since being Muslim, I have admittedly let the culturally toxic version of what Allah is in here, and because of that, I have been forcing myself to do the ritual prayers even when my body has said, Carly, you need to rest. Because some religious scholars, the main ones, in fact there's one particular one, tell me in the comments, I can't remember his name, has said like missing a prayer is worse than so ridiculous. Missing a prayer is worse than murder. That's what he actually said. And it is a general sort of overall common belief that missing a prayer is really bad. I even went to see a sheikh one day, like the only sheikh I ever met in London, and I was telling him that I struggle with chronic fatigue, and even he just said you have to push through, you have to do it. If you don't do it, like he was saying that if you don't do it, you're basically unprotected by God. So because of my past and what I've gone through in terms of spiritual clearance and spiritual healing, I, of course, have been a bit fear-mongered by that, thinking that it's so toxic, thinking that if I don't do 5 ritual prayers a day, God will not protect me. That is false. That is making God out to be pedantic, astaghfirullah, making it out that God needs our prayers, which he doesn't. We need our prayers, but it's not factoring in the whole point, which is God is all merciful, the most merciful, the most gracious, the most loving, al-wudud, al-latif, the most subtle, the nourisher, the most forgiving. And it ignores the fact that we're all on our own journeys, and we all have different limits at different points of our lives, determined by what we're going through or what our needs are, what our circumstances are. And I literally slept the best I have all week, and I didn't do the night prayer nor the Fajr prayer. But let me explain, because I'm not saying go ahead and stop praying. I'm not saying that. But for my particular circumstance right now, I just needed rest. And I actually needed to lean into the feeling of being confused and all the other things that I was actually feeling but trying to resist. Just feeling confused right now and not knowing what decisions to make. But I was pressuring myself to not be confused and to make decisions and to keep getting up and to force my body to do these things under the illusion and denial of what was actually true. But does God want us to do the ritual prayers when we're in a state of illusion and denial? No, that's why he probably says don't do the ritual prayers when you're in a state of intoxication. You need to be fully present. I haven't been, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people do it when they're not fully present as well, but they're forcing themselves to do it even when they're exhausted, probably dissociated a lot of the time, and not really feeling what they're saying. What's the point of that? Is that a true salah? Is that a true connection to God? And you know what? Hamza Yusuf brought up a very interesting point. He said, I'm going to have to find the verse now, but he pointed out, I'm going to find the verse and put it here after, that God says in the Quran not to establish your salah if you are in a state of insecurity, something like that, if you feel insecure. And he went into that word and he basically linked it to a state of being in fight or flight. So a state of chronic stress, which most of us are in 2025 in the Western world, especially if we use our phones for over 4 hours in the day, which is most of us. If you are chronically exhausted, it's because you have cortisol issues because of the constant fight or flight response and your body being constantly or majoritively in a state of sympathetic nervous system state, not in the rest and digest state. So, I mean, I don't know, God only knows, but I'm just saying, don't be pressured into illness by these bozos. believe that there is nuance in these conversations of religion and spirituality. They make you believe that they know the 100% truth, even though they end their lectures on Allah knows best. But sometimes I see that as like, you know, when a narcissist basically insults someone and like gaslights them and manipulates them, and then they'll also weave into the conversation they're only doing it because they love you. It's that type of manipulation I see. Do they really, really, truly embody the fact that they're saying that Allah knows best? Do they really believe that after they've just pressured a whole, not even nation, a whole world of Muslims into believing that God is a specific way because they know the truth? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's redundant to end your lectures with Allah knows best when you're doing stuff like that. God is all merciful. You are allowed to take some time to rest if you need it. You are not a machine. And in 2025, especially if you're working or if you have children or if you're struggling with chronic health issues, and living in this day and age with a phone, knowing everything that's going on around the world constantly, just think, how would an all-merciful God treat you right now? How would they treat you? Would they expect you to be following XYB's, like a whole list of things completely perfectly as these men are telling us to? And if not, you're a bad person and going to be attacked by jinn and and going to end up in hell because of it? How about God knows everything, and if you're genuinely trying your best, God will see that? How about just leaving it there? Stop watching any lecture that puts you out of that mindset, because that is making us astray. Paradoxically, right? Because they go on about, that will make you astray, sister, that will, brother, that will make you... You're making people astray, mate. You're making people sick and exhausted. So, but Allah knows best. No, literally, Allah knows best. But I'm just sharing my experience. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.